welcome back to English. Today we're on day 2 in our new Fantasy Book Club unit. So at this point, you guys have copies of your texts. You're in your groups. We've set up Google Chat so that each day is a new thread that we can use to interact with each other. And we're going to continue practicing with that. And remember that I don't expect everybody to kind of get the hang of that right away. This is something we're going to learn over the next few days, and I will be in there with you, kind of helping you figure things out. Okay, so yesterday we talked about setting, and we read, in the read aloud, we went through chapter 1, and then in the mini lesson, I showed you how I was reading, paying special attention to magical elements and parts of the setting, so the time and the place. And I made a T-chart yesterday and shared a notebook page with you, kind of showing how in chapter 1 we saw some magical elements with Rictus flying through the window and some things about his appearance, and then we learned that it was February, and wherever Harvey lives, it's cold and it's gray, and he's really bored. So we're going to take that thinking one step further today and think again about the setting, but we're going to analyze the setting as a psychological state, a place that carries a mood. Okay, so we're going to think about the atmosphere. And one good example I can give you is something Miss B said to me the other day. And we've talked about this quite a bit, but when we go into school now to pick up stuff or do some work in our classrooms, without having you guys around, the mood of the place is completely different. Okay, it's not the joyful, alive place that we're used to, that's full of noises and laughter and footsteps and kids moving around, and it's missing those things, right? So that has an effect on the way the setting, the way the school makes us feel. So when I go in there, I always feel kind of sad because I'm the only one there and you're not there. Okay, so during the normal time of school, when we're all going to school, walking in the building and seeing the students everywhere, it makes me happy, right? It makes my mood better. But going there now, it doesn't make my mood better, but it's actually kind of sad. Anyway, that is how the atmosphere, okay, which is part of the setting, can have an effect on the character. So I kept this in mind as I read chapter 2, and I have some things I want to share that I noticed. Okay, so in chapter 2, Harvey, at first he's a bit worried that Rictus was just a dream and he's not going to get to go to this holiday house. But on his way to school, in the fog, right, and if you look here in my Kindle here, you'll see that Rictus actually talks about the fog and the rain and the mud on his shoes. And I'm thinking to myself, now, we've got a whole paragraph about how Rictus hates the fog and the rain and the mud. He says it's shameful. So, as a reader, I'm thinking, this is chapter 2, and the author has a whole paragraph here on why Rictus hates this kind of weather. So, in my notebook, which you'll see in a minute, you'll see how I wrote something about that and what it makes me think. Okay, the weather must be important, is what I'm thinking, because we've met Rictus twice, and both times the weather has been bad. Right, the first time it was raining and the window blew open. Now he meets him again. He's walking through the fog on the way to school. So I picked that out, and if you think to yourself, what kind of mood does the fog give you, right? Or what kind of feeling does the fog give you? For me, it makes me feel kind of heavy, dreary. It's cloudy. You can't see very far, which could symbolize some uncertainty, like the future is unclear. Maybe some sadness. Okay, so I noticed that a lot in this chapter. And I see this through the conversation Rictus has with Harvey. But then, on the last page, okay, as they make their way through this wall, okay, and I wrote down something in my notebook. You'll see about this wall, and this jumps out at me as like a portal into another world, maybe a magical world, and it reminds me of one of our favorite stories, Harry Potter, where they run through the wall on platform 9 3/4. So I wrote something down about that, and I'm thinking that maybe this wall, this portal, is an element of all fantasy, or something that I want to think about more. So I wrote something down about that in my notebook. But what I see here on the last page is that he goes from gray clouds to a beautiful midsummer blue in the sky. Okay, so as a reader, I'm thinking we've crossed this threshold, we've gone through this wall, and the weather, okay, the setting, the atmosphere has changed. So instead of being dreary, we get through this wall, and we have the atmosphere, the setting, the weather to represent this change. So we have the big blue sky, or midsummer sky. There's grass that's high and it's full of flowers. There's even an illustration in the book to kind of show this. So as a reader, I'm thinking, this is real early in the book, seeing this big change in atmosphere, and I'm expecting a change in a lot of things. Okay, I'm expecting this change in atmosphere to have an effect on how Harvey feels, maybe the kinds of people he meets, and the things that he experiences on this side of the wall. Okay, so let's just have a look at my notebook. I'll show you what I wrote here. Okay, so I wrote like foggy morning. Rictus came in the rain and the fog, and it's twice now. Okay, there are 2 times we've met him, and it's been raining and fogging both times. I had to look up a word here. The jinn is like a genie. I even put a page number down here about Rictus hating this weather. I think that's going to be important. At another point in the book, I may have to come back and check that out, so I wrote a page number here. Okay, and like I said, I have the wall, and then here I write about the mood. Okay, so he's, in the beginning, he's kind of rushed, he's unhappy, he's uncertain about meeting Rictus again, and it's gray and cloudy. There's mud. But then, once they cross through that wall, that portal to another world, we've got tall grass, flowers, midsummer blue, and I feel a sense of excitement. Okay? And one of the things that happens as soon as they cross the wall is that Harvey moves right on through and doesn't really wait up for Rictus. So I see that his mood has changed to hopeful, and I see it through his actions. Okay? See, right here it says, he didn't wait for Rictus. He didn't wait to see if Rictus was coming after him, or wait to see how the gray beast February had been slain and this warm day risen in its place. He just laughed, right? So we see his mood changes, and this is represented through changes in the setting. So as you read today, I want you to pay attention to these kinds of things. Okay, good luck, and I'll see you in your conferences.